Our main protagonist, Sal Cooper, was the family's strongest shadow. Murder, arson, espionage, and like their codename, Shadow were the ones who did all the dirty work. After dedicating his life to the family, he was abandoned and humiliated by his family's enemy. He was accused of betraying their family and colluding with the enemy for his own personal gain. It was his own master who declared to order him an immediate execution. To summarize everything, he was pierced through the heart with 1,000 swords, deceived by a master he trusted by casting the shadow oath on him from the day he became a shadow, feeding him with his own strength, stripping his own gifts for his own use. In the end, the man who had sworn not to accept his fate died together with his oppressors, but still died unjustly. Fortunately, he had an unexpected rebirth. He came back from hell with hatred. Though he returned as 3 years old, he swore not to let himself make the same mistake. Kill evil servants and demonic beasts, reversing the past life relationship. From being the illegitimate son of the family that everyone hates, to the terrifying strongest sword saint of the continent. And these are just him returning the favor and avenging himself. The exact story begins in the hall where Sal Cooper was kneeling on the ground while holding his sword in front of the master he trusted and the whole guards of their family. This is the time when his master, Alan, ordered an immediate execution of Sal in the name of the Cooper family head. Sal grits his teeth out of anger knowing that he was treated unfairly. Before the guards could kill him, he swung his sword while he uttered that all of the people in their clan were such pretentious lying beasts who should rot in hell. He was able to go near Alan and pointed his sword at him. He was trembling since he was pierced on his chest from behind before he could strike. The life he had dedicated himself to his family became something the family sacrificed instead. While he was attacked from behind, he also wondered if his story would really end this way. Before he died, he swore to definitely rip all of the people who betrayed him if he would be given another chance to live. The last thing he recalled is his blood dripping, and all of a sudden, he found himself out of nowhere lying on the grass. Shockingly, he was in the body of a kid, but at first, he wasn't aware. He was full of scratches all over his body, and he was surprised by the fact that he was still alive. He gets up and moves like a shadow, and he doesn't notice that there's someone heading to him. He was puzzled, wondering where he was, but he also felt that the place was very familiar. The person who entered splashed water on his face. It was a lady servant ordering him to clean himself quickly since there was someone who would take him somewhere. Sal felt insulted by the elder's attitude toward him. He stares at the lady with anger, but the lady servant slaps his face so hard and says, "What's with that rotten gaze? You little brat who hasn't even grown all his hair yet, dare to defy me." Sal fell on the ground and he was so wet. He turned his head around and found his reflection in the water that spilled on the floor. He chuckled evilly knowing that he returned to the time when he was 3. He clenched his fist while repeating the word that he was really reborn. As I had said, Sal Cooper was the Cooper family's shadow in his previous life. Together with the other shadows, he endured the family's cruelest training since a young age. Doing murders, arson, espionage, like their codename Shadow, doing all the hidden dirty work for the family. As rewards, the family also presented them with endless riches and glory. Thus, they, shadows, willingly endured the hardships. As the illegitimate son of the family, he was determined to change his fate of getting bullied by others. He was talentless, and so he trained to death to make up for it. He was neglected, and so he took the initiative to fight for the family. To fulfill his orders, he beheaded enemies and laid waste to cities. In the end, after countless slaughters, he obtained the victory for the family. He thought his family would welcome him with precious rewards, but he didn't expect to be framed. And thus, he learned the harsh truth behind the existence of shadows. Alan even proudly said that he cast the shadow oath to Sal from the day Sal became a shadow. According to him, the strength Sal obtained from his growth will also be continuously transferred to him, while every injury he receives will be transferred to Sal to suffer. As for the glory or money, it's just to entice dirty, pathetic bugs like Sal as per Alan. Sal doesn't like the way Alan talks toward him and just casually calls him a pathetic bug. In the end, he used all his strength to swing his final strike in rage. But Alan still dared to smile ironically after he was able to slash his shoulder. A flame appeared and the wound of Alan slowly vanished. The flame went inside Sal's body, and at that moment, he understood that it's blood magic, which is the reversal shadow oath, and stole back all the power that was taken away from him by his master, Alan. He was spitting blood as he felt severe pain instead of Alan. He knew that his life had reached its end. And now that he was reborn, he swore not to let the same mistake happen again. At this moment, his stomach suddenly growled and he realized that he felt like he hadn't eaten for 3 days. Luckily, he saw a rat roaming inside. He stares at it with an evil smile on his face as he thinks of eating this to satiate his hunger first. He didn't feel disgusted with it since rats in his previous life were more delicious than human meat. While he was about to eat it, someone entered his room. It was two men calling him trash. The men walked toward him and informed him that their young master Alan wanted to see him. He was grabbed by the men while he was puzzled while trying to remember this stage of his life. He recalled that this is the moment he was chosen as Shadow, but all his memories regarding the initiation had disappeared, which he believes must have been the time he was cursed with the blood magic Shadow Oath. He slightly smiled, thinking that he won't let it happen again. He bit the men's hands, leaving a scratch. Both men were mad at him. He successfully freed himself, and one of the men told him not to be arrogant. The man tried to catch him, but he slid and reached the sword. He then slashed the man's arm mercilessly, and the man screamed in agony. The other guy was dumbfounded as he could not believe that a 3-year-old kid knew how to use swordsmanship. Sal at the same time was smiling while staring at the sword, thinking that the perfect opportunity for his revenge had come. Shadow Oath is a form of ancient blood magic where the caster, who is the master of the oath, only needs to pay the price of a small amount of blood to make the target become his shadow. The shadow will be unable to harm the oath master and have to suffer the injuries sustained by the oath master in his place. At the same time, all the growth and abilities of the shadow will be transferred to the oath master. Due to the cruel nature of the magic, the Empire issued an order 100 years ago to destroy all grimoires with records of shadow oaths, preventing anyone from using it. After what Sal did to the guard of Alan, he was still called together with some other kids. Alan slapped the guard who brought Sal upon knowing that his two men were defeated by just a mere kid. To be bullied by a wild dog. Did the Cooper family raise you for nothing? Alan angrily said while pointing his finger at the man. At this time, he's 8 years old and known as the successor of the Cooper family. The man apologizes to him and blames his subordinate for failing the duty. Alan crossed his arms and walked towards Sal while saying that Sal really had the guts to touch his own people. Sal stares at Alan with anger, but he doesn't give any words at all. Alan then ordered his men to lock up Sal in the dungeon and let him suffer. Two of his guards then answered yes to follow his order, but a lady came and stopped Alan. She's Hira Cooper, the matriarch of the Cooper family, also Alan's mother, and behind her is her subordinate. She then said that Sal had no one looking after him since young, so she believes it's normal for Sal to act a little crazily. If she should be the one to ask, it isn't the best time now to punish Sal since there's an important thing for Alan to do, which is the oath-taking ceremony. She stood in front of Alan and told him not to forget what she told him several times. She bent down and whispered, reminding Alan that there was something they needed to accomplish today. Alan already understood what his mother was talking about. He looked at Sal, wondering why his mother chose Sal, a lowly bastard child he knew, to become his shadow. He vows that he will definitely ruin Sal for touching his men once he finds a chance. He looked back to his mother and smiled, then answered yes. Alright, then mother will bring these people out and won't disturb you, our future family head, Hira stated. She then ordered his subordinate to clear the place out except for Alan, and the kids then let the guards cast the soundproofing spell and also make sure not to let anyone disturb the young master. After she left, Alan poured drugged water for everyone without them knowing it, since they were only informed that it was just holy water. He raised his glass and said, from this time forth, every one of you will become a member of the Shadow Army. Let us make an oath to the family. The other kids then uttered, in the name of Shadow, I swear to dedicate my entire life to the family. Our life, our everything was all granted to us by the family. The family's command. Sal was not following them. He stares at his own glass and fakely drinks it. He then dropped his glass on the ground the same as everyone. The helpless kids collapsed, but Sal was just faking it. Alan then smiled while saying that these kids were a bunch of fools who couldn't even differentiate between drugged water and holy water. He cut himself using a small knife and let his blood drip on the ground. The magic then formed on the ground where the kids were lying. A light strike emerged from the ground below Alan was standing, and it went toward the kids. Sal was possessed by the magic, but he was fully aware of what was going on. At this point, Alan was so happy that he could feel power entering his body. He believes that the Shadow Oath is working well on him, and he didn't expect the process to be so simple. He was so proud of himself and he wanted to tell his mother about it as soon as possible. He turned around and called his mother to tell the news, but then his knees were suddenly in pain, causing him to fall on the ground. He wanted to stand and walk, but he panicked since he could not move his legs at all. He thought that it might be the after effects of the Shadow Oath, but then he cannot remember if his mother mentioned about it. He cried in pain and fear while calling his mother to come over, but his scream wasn't enough. You really are a coward that only knows to hide behind your mother's back. But what a shame. In order to not disturb you before you finish the Shadow Oath, your mother cast a soundproof spell. No matter how loud you cry, they won't be able to hear you, Sal stated from behind him. Alan was scared and slightly checked the person who was standing behind him. Then he found out that it was Sal Cooper, which shocked him the most. Sal was holding the sword and his aura was terrifying, making Alan to be more scared. Alan was so confused about why Sal was awake and why he knew about the shadow oath. Sal then teases him that he is scared because of it, and he informs Alan that it isn't just the only thing he knows. "If I were to reverse the shadow oath, I wonder how you would react, Your Excellency," he uttered. He then swung the sword he was holding and struck it on the ground. A red flame appeared, and while he was doing it, Alan felt severe pain in his heart, causing him to scream. He rattled, asking Sal what he was trying to do. Sal pulled the sword and he was still smiling evilly. He walked toward Alan while recalling that he paid the price of his life in his previous life in order to steal back everything that belonged to him, so in this life, he's simply returning the favor. He casts magic toward Alan and Alan screamed so loud. His mother was just waiting for him outside, but she rattled when she heard his son's painful scream, and her subordinate also informed her that the soundproof spell shattered. When the night came, Alan was on his bed. He was so silent while his mother was beside him. According to Hira's subordinate, Alan's body is fine, and only faints temporarily because of using too much magic power. As for the soundproof spell broke, one of the servants was distracted during the spell casting and he already sent that person to be executed. Hira then casually ordered him to feed the corpse to the dogs. She was staring at her son while her subordinate told her that Alan seemed to be unsettled. Also, for him, Alam is too young to do the shadow oath, so it's inevitable that there will be a burden on the heart. Alan at this moment remained silent. He feels that something had happened earlier, but he couldn't remember anything even if how much he tried to recall it. His mother held his head, which startled him. "Alan, you don't have to feel troubled over the shadows. The strong prey upon the weak in this work, and you are," Hira stated. But her words were cut off when Alan pushed away her hand and said, "How is that possible? I am the future head of the Cooper family. Those wretched creatures should be born to sacrifice their lives for me." Hira then chuckled and he was glad to see his son's energy finally came back in an instant. They hugged each other while the lady promised to give a reward to his son Alan. They were not aware that there is someone listening to their conversation just outside the window. As expected, it was Sal Cooper. He crossed his arms and smiled while saying that the two had a deep bond as a mother and son. He activates his magic power and proclaims that from this day forth, Alan Cooper has become his shadow. In his past life, when he battled for the family, he discovered a blood magic index that had a record on shadow oath. He happily presented it to the family, but he didn't expect himself to have already become the family's sacrifice. It was fortunate that he looked through the contents of the book and combined that with the experience of stealing back his power in his previous life. Right now, he just needs to use a little blood as a cost to reverse the shadow oath and swap the position of Alan and him. Even so, this 3-year-old him is just far too weak and isn't capable of resisting them, so he was determined to get stronger starting from now on. And so, his first step to becoming stronger is to go to the Flaming Cliff. This is the Cooper family's testing grounds, created by the Cooper family to select strong shadows willing to sacrifice themselves for the family. It is similar to how Prometheus stole the flame for humankind and willingly sacrificed himself, enduring the pecks of the eagle day and night. The Cooper family also threw this group of children who were 10 years old and below into the Flaming Cliff. They ordered them to trek through the thorns and commanded the eagles to gnaw on their flesh. Even with their final breaths, they are not allowed to give up until he first shadow scaled the peak and obtained the blessings of the eagle, Griffin, and received a body that will never be injured, no matter how much it is attacked or pecked. When the day came, all the children including Sal were gathered in the Flaming Cliff. There was a man with a bow standing in front of them who informed everyone that they had only 3 days, and regardless of what methods they used, there was only one objective for this test, which was to reach the peak alive. Izino's Walker, the Shadow's training officer. He also added that the children shouldn't forget that deserters will be sentenced to death after 3 days. The kids were scared except for Sal, since he was already aware of what to do. "Alright, Shadows, for your bright futures, set off," Enos declared and took a blow on his whistle. Everyone then ran to do their task. They were panicking, but Enos noticed something. That is Sal, who was just chilling while walking and even whistled using his mouth. Enos was so confused as to why Sal was really composed while everyone was panicking. The kids were heading in the same direction while Sal has his own way. Enos' subordinate then informed him that Sal is part of the Cooper family and also the illegitimate son who angered Alan Cooper yesterday. Sal climbs on the cliff and seeing what he is doing makes both Enos and his subordinate laugh while saying that Sal is so stupid for not taking the slope and is scaling the cliff wall barehandedly. They were sure that Sal would probably fall without even reaching the halfway mark. Enos' subordinate suggested that they must now collect Sal's corpse since they expected Sal would really die at this rate. But then, Ino said there was no need for it. He was holding a clock and said, I suddenly thought of an interesting idea. Now is the perfect time for that guy to show up. After saying that word, an eagle then shows up which scares the children knowing that it's a monster. After a while, Sal managed to climb to the top of the cliff and found the corpses of the kids who were gnawed by the eagle helplessly. The eagle's eyes were dazzling while staring at Sal. Sal was hanging on the cliff while Ino's was staring at him. He angered young Master Alan yesterday. Why don't we take this chance to remove him by borrowing the griffin? Ino said while reaching his bow. He aimed his arrow at Griffin, the eagle, while saying that he would make the young master happy. He shot his arrow and only intended to hit a little feather of the eagle. Sal at the same time safely reaches above the cliff. Griffin was mad for daring to attack him. He charged at Sal to vent his anger while saying that foolish humans wanted to die. He tried to attack Sal, but Sal jumped away to avoid its beak. He activated his magic power and jumped to the eagle's body. He was confident since he learned a lot from his previous life. He was standing at the eagle while he concluded that the only way to quickly scale to the peak and obtain Griffin's blessing was to tame it. He raised his flaming sword and attacked it to the eagle. It turned out that Griffin is an S-rank male monster, a 4-star danger level, and was originally born here in the Flaming Cliff. According to legends, it developed intelligence after consuming a massive number of human brains and is capable of communicating with humans. It struck an agreement with the Cooper family to assist them in selecting shadows in exchange for bait. Those who receive the blessing of the griffin will be rewarded with an indestructible body. It loves gold and jewels and has one offspring. Griffin was squeaking in agony the moment Sal struck its head. Sal was aware that griffins are stubborn creatures by nature and possess human-like intelligence, and if he doesn't completely subdue it, it will never be tamed by him. That is why he can only use this move, which is the Shadow Blade, slashing third form. He slashes Griffin with this technique, but Griffin avoids it and suddenly blows a wind orb. He then attacked it to Sal, and Sal unfortunately flew away and almost fell on the cliff. Lucky for him that he was able to grab on the cliff and climb back. He admitted that he was too careless without thinking that he was a 3-year-old kid now, not a 30-year-old adult, so there was no use for him that he had mastered the sword technique in his previous life, since with his current physique and strength, he'll still be blown away before getting close to the griffin. Luckily, he found a solution, and that was if he could reach the cave nearby. He was panting heavily, but he didn't think of surrendering what he had started. The griffin blows another wind orb once again and attacks Sal. Sal runs away and avoids the griffin's attack. Still, he felt such a powerful wind energy from it. Fortunately, he was fully aware that the power of the griffin would increase from level 1 to 10 for every wind orb the griffin released. And if the 10th wind orb was released, not even 100 of him would be able to escape. He suddenly realizes something. He stopped running and jumped as he decided to just tank the griffin hit and use its wind power to propel him to the cave since he could not dodge it. He managed to make it and he flew away going to the cave. He then activates his Shadow Oath to lower his energy consumption and absorb Alan's strength at the same time. While he was doing it, Alan on the ground hand dropped his cup of tea. He fainted once again and his subordinate panicked and called anyone to help. A purple flame and dark reddish come out from his body, and at this time, Sal successfully entered the cave. He then ran inside and the griffin also landed outside the cave to chase him. The griffin immediately headed inside the cave while telling Sal that there was no way for him to run away. But then, the griffin paused and angrily stared at Sal. It is because Sal was holding his son who was crying for help. Sal was pointing his sword at the baby eagle and he smirked to tease the griffin. Few people in the world know that the powerful griffin is born with broken wings and unable to fly, Sal stated. The griffin seemed to be scared, asking Sal what he was trying to do with his child. Sal then told him to relax since he didn't have any intention of hurting the baby eagle. He also told the griffin that he could treat the baby eagle's wings and help him to fly. The griffin was confused and Sal told him that he could really make it happen, but there was a condition. While Sal and the griffin having a discussion inside the cave, Enos and his subordinate don't hear any noise from Sal and the griffin, so they both conclude that Sal has been eaten by the griffin. Because of it, they both decided to leave and report the failure of Sal and the other kids to Alan so they could gain some favor. But as they walked away, Sal riding in the griffin suddenly appeared behind them. Sure, then I shall send the both of you. But I might have to trouble you to wait for him down in hell, Sal stated with crossed arms. The two men were scared and ran away while screaming no. But in the end, they were eaten by the griffin alive. I've done what I promised, now it's your turn to fulfill your end of the deal, the griffin said. And Sal then ordered him to bring him to the secret realm at the northernmost of this mountain range. Meanwhile, they arrived at the land of stone and stood still for a moment in front of a huge gate. Before entering, The griffin reminded Sal to take the sword of Perseus just like they had agreed, then help him obtain the Medusa's blood which can cure everything. Sal confidently smiled and told the griffin not to worry, but the fact is that his goal isn't the holy sword that the griffin wanted nor to help the griffin. What he wants is to borrow the griffin to destroy this secret realm. The griffin opened the gate, and while they were still standing outside, they instantly saw Medusa's statue together with 3 other human-like statues. The griffin started attacking the statues, and he was shocked when he found out that the statues inside this realm were able to move. Still, he easily crashed the statues, but unfortunately, the shattered pieces of the statues gathered and slowly became one. Sal fell on the ground upon seeing it. He uttered the statues' names, which are Dano, Ennio, and Pamphredo. According to him, these 3 statues don't have the 5 organs just like the Gree sisters in mythology, also share the same eye and the same tooth. While he was explaining, the griffin was listening to him while staring at the creature in front of them. He added that the 3 statues had the ability to control seawater because they were the daughters of sea deities, including Medusa. The Gree sisters formed into one and are already in front of them. He screamed run, and the Gree sisters cast a strong wave of water on them. Sal and the griffin ran, but then the griffin said there was no point in them running away. What he wants now is for Sal to find a way to get the sword that he wants. Sal acts to be scared while saying that he is searching for the sword. At this moment, the griffin concludes that they'll both die in this situation since the place is about to collapse. Sal assured the griffin that he was really searching for the sword's whereabouts, and he even said that he was checking the wall as there might be a way written on the runes at the wall. But deep inside him, he was glad that the secret realm was about to collapse, and he was looking forward to seeing everything in the realm be buried. He was running away, heading to the secret tunnel that he discovered in his previous life. He suddenly pauses as he realizes that the amount of destruction at this time isn't enough. Griffin, the runes say to remove the eye from up there. They will stop attacking then, he said. The eye above the wall was staring at them. The griffin then charged to it to follow what Sal said. He then removed the eye using its mouth. After that, the Gree sisters stopped casting an attack and suddenly melted. It turned into water, which impressed the griffin. Sal then explains to him that it is because the runes say that Perseus discovered the location of Medusa only after stealing the eye of the Gree sisters, so the eye is the Gree sisters' weakness. What about the sword? Where's the blood that can treat my offspring? Did the runes say anything? The griffin asked, and Sal then pointed in the direction where the griffin could find the sword. It was located right behind Medusa. According to Sal, Perseus used this sword to behead Medusa, spilling both red and green blood. The red blood can poison all living souls to death, while the green blood can heal all illnesses. But these are just legends. As for this secret realm, there is another secret. That is, the emergence of the sword of Perseus is the time of Medusa's revival. At this point, Medusa woke up and aimed to attack the griffin. She casts an attack, and Sal then seizes the opportunity to run away to leave. Once the Medusa statue is activated, he knows that it won't stop unless someone beheads it with the sword of Perseus. He opened the secret path to exit, but when he took a glance at Medusa, it turned out that it wouldn't let him leave and suddenly attacked him. He was lucky enough to avoid it. He slid on the ground while staring at Medusa. Medusa's eyes were dazzling. She possessed an azure flame, and Sal was confused as to why Medusa was attacking him. He wondered where's the griffin, but then he found that the griffin was hiding on a rock. You can tell at a glance that this guy won't be easy to deal with. I'll leave the rest to you, I don't want to die, the griffin said. And this is the first time Sal discovers that the griffin has the skill to shrink itself. Medusa was hissing. Sal runs away while Medusa keeps on attacking him. Fortunately, he passed this secret realm once in his previous life, so he's not out of options. He runs at the Knights of the Round Table, planning to acquire the shield first. He knew that he would then be able to use the reflection of the shield to lower the risk of looking directly into Medusa's eyes and turning into stone from carelessness. At the same time, he can also shield against Medusa's gaze attack. After acquiring the shield, he was able to block each of Medusa's attacks. Still, he was struggling a little because of the strength Medusa had. Unfortunately, he flew away and vomited blood the moment Medusa attacked him with its full force. He falls to the ground and realizes that the shield isn't enough for him to survive. In addition, he knew he could not run away since the secret realm was already destroyed by Medusa. And with the level of his talents, he knows he can't wield the sword of Perseus. But then, a part of him believes that he won't confirm it unless he tries. He also concludes that he would surely die in this realm if he didn't give it a try, which is why he dashed to the sword and grabbed it. He was willing to put everything at stake as long as he would survive. He lifted up the sword and he was shocked by the fact that he easily picked it up, which he never expected. He was grabbed by Medusa, but he didn't panic at all since his mind is still wondering why he grabbed the sword easily. He knew that his talent rank was too low to hold the sword, so he couldn't believe what just happened. He recalled back then in his previous life when Alan belittled him for wanting to hold the holy sword despite that he's just a D-rank talent. He was tied to a cross while Alan and Hira were standing in front of him and talking. During that time, Alan told his mother that Sal was still conscious so he might know that they were going to strip his talent away from him. Hira then told him that simple amnesia magic would be enough to settle the problem so he shouldn't worry about anything. He recalled that Alan stole his swordsmanship talent. Surprisingly, Sal possessed the power that came from the sword. He was covered with flame which shocked the griffin. He was clueless about what was going on, but then he instantly realized what was happening to Sal now. That is because Sal actually broke off the bind unscathed. Sal stares at Medusa with anger and Medusa becomes scared with the aura Sal has. Sal swung his sword and he seemed to have a monster complexion. In his past life, he possessed a sword talent that might have been S rank or higher. But the matriarch used some form of magic to strip him of that talent and gave it to Alan, then erased his memories. But now, he finally knew the truth. After dealing with Medusa, he immediately collects Medusa's blood and he suddenly guffaws, which confuses Griffin as to why he acts differently all of a sudden. His eyes were dazzling while he was thinking that everything becomes more and more interesting. Because of what he discovered, he was confident to deal with Alan and those other people who betrayed him. While he was laughing alone like crazy, Griffin slowly moved to take the chance to hurriedly scurry away while Sal was busy. But then, when he was about to flee, he was startled by the voice of Sal commanding him to come back. Griffin turned back and addressed Sal as his lord, asking him what was the matter. Sal at the same time senses that Griffin suddenly becomes afraid of him despite the fact that he's an S-rank monster. "Is your head made of metal?" Sal asked, but Griffin was confused by his question. After explaining to him, he then flew inside the tunnel and started destroying it. He was forced to bump into the wall, causing him to get a lump on his head. While doing it, Sal was riding on his back. At the same time, Griffin realizes that Sal only used him to destroy the secret realm right from the start. Since Sal can treat his offspring, he also won't let the opportunity pass. He continued to destroy the cave. The secret realm was completely destroyed after a few minutes and Medusa was covered by the rocks that collapsed. After finishing the secret realm, Griffin went back to the flaming cliff together with Sal. Surprisingly, he uttered Sal's full name and declared to bless him with his title as the Griffin. He blessed Sal with a body that will never be injured no matter how he'll be attacked. Sal was covered with the magic of Griffin. While in the process, he feels like his body has strengthened and some of his minor injuries have healed. He knows that it would be good for his sake to know that reducing his body's injuries means he won't need to constantly transfer his injuries to Alan anymore, which could make the matriarch suspicious. Furthermore, he concludes that he must hide his S-rank sword talent for now so he won't be inviting unwanted trouble. After giving him a blessing, he then handed Medusa's blood to Griffin and instructed Griffin to give it to his offspring so that the baby eagle's wings would be healed. Griffin immediately accepted it and let his offspring drink it. The healing process immediately started and the baby eagle finally flew with happiness knowing that he was now perfectly fine. Griffin, on the other hand, was so glad to see his offspring's energy come back because of Sal's help. It only knows how to fly now, but if it doesn't accept a master before it comes of age, it will be a stupid bird in the end. Sal stated, but Griffin didn't understand what he meant. "Nothing, I'm just giving you kind-hearted advice as a stranger. After all, you also became strong only after you accepted a master, right?" Sal added. Griffin agreed to him knowing that he wouldn't have awakened his intelligence and become even stronger if his master hadn't fed him human brains daily. His master had already died for 100 years, so he doesn't know where he could still find a powerless and ruthless master just like the previous one he had. His eyes suddenly brightened as he thought of a way, that is to choose Sal Cooper as the master of his offspring. "Please accept my child as your pet, master," he said. Since Sal possessed incredible intelligence and skills beyond anyone his age, Griffin believes that Sal might even exceed Bled in the future. Sal smirked knowing that Griffin took the bait. "All right, I can accept it as my pet monster, but you have to make a deal with me," he answered. He told Griffin that he wanted all the information Griffin had regarding Bled Cooper, as well as the precious key that could unlock the place where the Cooper family worships the sword spirit Bled. Going back to Cooper's palace, Hira received a report from her subordinate that they could not find the cause of why Alan always fainted. "Are you telling me that the young master's constant fainting happens out of thin air?" "How long will this situation last?" she asked, and her subordinate told her not to worry since Alan has the protection of the Shadow Oath and has always woken up very quickly. In addition, Hira also had those little shadows helping Alan to take his injuries in his place and supply him with strength. Hira agreed with her subordinate, but he really felt strange with the whole situation since Alan started to faint on the day of the Shadow Oath ceremony, so she concludes there's someone behind it. After reporting about Alan's health, the servant of Hira then informed her that there was another urgent matter Hira should have to take care of for now. According to him, Sal Cooper obtained first place in the competence test, which they already expected. It's just that Sal Cooper used the griffin to kill 2 of their men and make the baby eagle as Sal's pet master. Hira was surprised upon hearing it. She panicked and put back the glass of tea she was holding while asking her subordinate about where Sal was. Her subordinate said that Sal was just outside the door. Hira stood and was about to go to Sal, but Sal entered the room and asked Hira how he could help her. Hira then asked him why he killed the walker, which are those 2 men Sal killed on the flaming cliff. And Sal answered, "I did it all for the family. A shadow officer like him was killed by a 3-year-old child. He's too useless. The Cooper family doesn't need trash like him. Don't you agree, madam?" And Sal Cooper's answer only made Hira dumbfounded. With her expression, Sal knew that she was angry and disgusted. Sal expected her to have a trump card, but he wasn't afraid even a little. "Come on, Josh, let's reward Sal Cooper with a trip to Eden Springs," Hira said with a smile. Sal gave thanks to her, and it seemed like a coincidence for him since he was really planning to go to the place Hira mentioned. He then left Hira's room, and Hira then told Josh, her subordinate, to take away Sal's talent before the sword spirit inheritance ceremony and use it on Alan. She concludes that her son's status as heir will be in jeopardy once Alan's secret of having no talent for swordsmanship is exposed. She was full of anger against Sal Cooper, but she decided to be calm for now, let the kid go, and wait for the moment to see how arrogant Sal Cooper could be. Meanwhile, Sal Cooper was already at Eden Springs. There was a pool in this place, but he never swam. He just walks while recalling what Griffin told him. Griffin said that his master used forbidden magic to seal his soul at the bottom of Eden Spring before his death. The purpose is to pass on the swordsmanship acquired throughout Griffin's master's life to the heir with S-level swordsmanship talent, and ensure that the Cooper family's status in the Empire will not decline. That time, Griffin handed a key to Sal. He instructed Sal to swim along the undercurrent after entering the bottom of the springs, and he will enter an underground cave. The purpose of the key is to be the guide for Sal to meet Griffin's master. Griffin also mentioned that there's something strange going on with Eden Springs, but since he has been separated from his master for too long, so he doesn't know what it is. The only thing he can tell is that his master uses blood magic, which is not that easy to deal with. With the black magic he mentioned, Sal instantly felt something strange with it, and he feels that it seems it is not easy to get the inheritance of swordsmanship before Alan. While he was thinking, the kids in the pool knew him as the first placer winner in qualifying and training, and he also tamed Griffin's cub, which made them amazed. What's so great about that? He's just a son of a prostitute, that's all, the boy said. He's Lucianja, Reynolds' little henchman, and beside him is Reynold Oles, the son of the Copper's coachman. Congratulations. I didn't realize you could run like a skinny monkey and get to the top of the mountain first, Reynolds said while facing Sal. Lucian then laughed because of what he said, and at the same time, Sal recalled that both of these men in his previous life were his subordinates on the surface, but in reality they were pawns placed by Alan. And they're the ones who made those unfounded charges and accused him of collaborating with the enemy and treason. These men were also used to getting away with things because they got Alan's backing. He was not responding to Reynold, which made Reynold feel insulted and clench his fist, planning to punch Sal while saying that he would like to see if Sal's indestructible body would work. Sal remained silent, but he caught Reynolds' fist, which shocked the kid. "All right, I'll show you," Sal uttered, then squeezed his arm. Reynolds screamed in agony. Lucian was worried for him. He grabs a knife and grits his teeth while charging at Sal, but then he trembled the moment he struck an attack. It turned out that he hit Reynold instead of Sal. "I apologize, I accidentally used this guy as a meat shield," Sal said with an ironic smile. Reynold at the same time vomited blood. Sal then strongly pushed Reynolds' body to Lucian, so both kids flew away in the water. Sal intended it, knowing that the water pool Cassie heal wounds. He was also looking forward to practicing his ability next time with these two. In this life, he vows to give these traitors an irresistible reason to become his chess pieces. While Reynold dropped below the water, there was a back magic emerged and Sal smelled it. He cannot explain how such an evil forbidden art, no less than blood magic, appears in a spring that can heal the injured and the sick. He then concludes that it might be what Griffin means by strange, but no matter what, he cannot just go down to the bottom of the spring. He has to find a way to get to the bottom of the spring without touching the water. While he was thinking, there was a little girl who was pulled by the man. The lady was screaming for help and Sal was startled upon hearing the girl's familiar voice. "If you can't even serve tea and water, you're just asking for a beating," the man said, and the little girl then said that she didn't mean it. She was begging the man to let her go, and Sal at the same time stared at the girl knowing that she was Andrea. The man pulling Andrea's hair was mad as he felt insulted when Andrea answered him. He was about to hear the kid, but before he could do that, he was suddenly sliced in half, and the last person he saw was Sal, who was holding a sword while staring at him. The little girl was dumbfounded while the kids ran away to report Sal for killing someone. Sal didn't care about them. Instead, he went to Andrea, extending his hand, and asked her if she was fine. Andrea was too stunned to speak. In her perspective, Sal is a prince in her eyes. Since she didn't reach Sal's hand, Sal thought that the lady was scared of him, especially since she can see the girl trembling while still sitting on the ground. He looked away at the lady without knowing that the lady's eyes sparkled while staring at him. "Thank you for saving me. My name is Andrea, what's yours?" she said. At this time, Sal Cooper recalled the time when he was with Andrea in his previous life. Andrea is a healer type who also treats him if he gets hurt. She was his best friend in his previous life and she possesses a magic talent that surpasses anyone in her age. They had fought together temporarily for a few days too. Back then, Andrea is perfect in his eyes. At this present time, 5-year-old Andrea was so cute to him. He was thrilled while staring at the girl. He cleared his throat and said that helping anyone is what a gentleman should do. He also told her to call him Sal, and knowing that Andrea had stayed in this spring for too long, he decided to seize the opportunity to ask something to the lady. He asked her if she knew a way to drain the spring or get into the spring without touching a drop of water. He cannot forget the task in his hand, and he believes that he could find a way with Andrea's help. "Did you realize it too?" Andrea asked, but Sal didn't know what she meant to say. Andrea whispered to him, saying that although there is a strange magic in the spring that can recover injuries, anyone who uses it can never accept another form of healing magic and can only rely on the spring to recover their injuries. Sal then understood it. He concludes that there is another way for the Cooper family to control the shadows, by forcing them to beg the family for help when they are suffering through pain. Andrea suddenly held his hand and offered him help so she could also give thanks to him. That is to let him enter the spring without touching the water. She doesn't wait for Sal's response and immediately activates her magic power. It covered her and Sal. According to her, this magic is called duck magic, which enables people to become like ducks. Ducks can dive into the water without wetting the insides of their feathers. Sal smiled knowing that this magic is really called isolation magic, and he believes that Andrea only named it by herself just like what she was in the past. At this time, the guards of the spring came to catch Sal for killing someone. He immediately ran away while pulling Andrea's hand. They dived into the pool and no guards dared to chase them into the water. Sal went deeper. He feels the undercurrent of the spring, so he concludes that this area of the spring might be the place Griffin mentioned. Andrea was giving him a signal since they could not talk in the water. She was telling him that they could not go down deeper and she wanted them both to leave quickly. But of course, Sal didn't listen. The more they get deeper, the more the current is sipping them, and so they cannot resist anymore. Meanwhile, Andrea wakes Sal up since Sal lost consciousness when they reached the deeper part where the current sipped them. Sal slowly opened his eyes and saw the lady. He gets up his upper body and looks around, wondering if this is the place Griffin mentioned. He gets the key in his pocket and Andrea then asks him what it is. As per Sal, this key is a gem key. A key that can unlock the place where there is a sword spirit to be worshipped. Since there wasn't any door in this place, he concluded that the door needed to be summoned. Andrea then asks for the key as she believes she could possibly make it, although she doesn't know what a sword spirit is. She then used her magic power, asking for the key to find its master, and opened the door to this place. She was standing in the middle of her magic circle while Sal just waited for her to finish it. But then, Sal suddenly felt a danger coming. There were flower beasts that appeared and instantly attacked them, so he immediately grabbed Andrea and jumped away. They landed on the ground and he made sure Andrea won't get hurt. The area gets smoky, then Sal finally sees the portal that appeared in front of them. This time, he noticed that Andrea was unconscious. He then carried her and transferred her to a safer area. He knew that he didn't have a choice but to let Andrea rest for a while. He then puts his palm on Andrea's forehead and activates the invisibility magic that Andrea taught him in his previous life so she wouldn't be easily discovered if there is danger. In addition, he's expecting to face an ugly battle before he can obtain the inheritance of the sword spirit. He slowly entered the portal without knowing that there were corpses inside. As he entered, he flinched upon seeing thousands of corpses, and above these bodies were the murderer. This monster was holding a lady. His face was scary. He looked at Sal and declared that he had a guest. Eden Spring, on the surface, is a medicinal hot spring, but in reality, it is a sensual place where the Cooper family keeps their concubines. And in this moment, Sal realizes the true fate that awaited them. He discovered that all of them became nourishment for the sword demon. The monster moved closer to him, but he wasn't afraid at all. He stares at it with anger, and the monster says that Sal has a scent of an S-rank talent. Sal then jumped away from this monster, and he was wondering how the monster knew that he was an S-rank talent. This monster then summoned a blood-type weapon while saying that Sal didn't look pampered at all, which made him conclude that Sal is just a bastard child that came to take the inheritance. While saying such words, he charged at Sal and tried to attack, but Sal blocked his weapon. "I won't give it to you easily unless you can get past me," the monster said. Sal then told him not to worry since he only came just to kill this monster. The monster swung its weapon and said, "As expected, if my bled Cooper's descendant. You're crazy, Anaug." He moved closer to Sal while Sal also moved backward. They fight with their swords, but the monster is able to hit Sal's chest. Sal moaned in pain and he fell on the ground. The monster then teases him that he is too weak. The monster flinched when he saw something. He noticed that Sal's wound slowly healed. He believes that it was because of the Griffin's blessing, and he said that he didn't expect that the Griffin would acknowledge Sal. Sal's wound completely healed in just a few seconds. Right now, he was thinking that blood sacrificed is a great amount of the monster's power to seal his soul. He also believes that there is still a sliver of hope for him to get the inheritance with his current ability. He stood full of blood. His aura is now different than earlier. A golden cross then suddenly appeared beside the monster. The monster was pierced in his hand, and he was aware that this thing is called a magic restrictive blood formation. He was crucified and he screamed in so much pain. "You've been dead for too long, and you didn't know that in these 100 years, the Empire has already researched and developed techniques to deal with blood magic," Sal stated. At this time, he planned to take the monster's heart and forcefully receive the inheritance. The monster screamed no, but he suddenly smiled while Sal pointed the sword at him. Shockingly, he freed himself from the cross, and Sal was puzzled thinking what just happened. The monster jumped away from him while laughing so loud to tease Sal, and he said that Sal was so interested. He also stated that it had been a while since he played with a little mouse. Blood dripped from his hand and he uttered, "The game is already over, I'm not playing anymore." Because of the blood fell on the ground, the blood spirits were summoned. At the same time, the monster admitted that Sal really does possess some ability and talent. It's just that they're not enough to earn his sword technique inheritance. The blood spirits started to attack Sal. He confirmed that the sword demon really had such powerful strength as it was able to use blood to control blood spirits. He tried his best to block the attack of the spirits, but then it was too many, so he got slashed on his back. The spirits were floating, and Sal observed that the attacks of these spirits were too concentrated. He then activates a holy sword protection, and he plans to use the sword of Perseus to resist the magic. Unfortunately, the sword demon tapped the protection that Sal casts, and it instantly shattered to pieces. Sal was dumbfounded. The sword demon choked him and then lifted him up while telling him that he should know that after a cat is done toying with a mouse, the mouse will be eaten. At this moment, Sal was enduring the pain, but he was aware that his blood and mana were draining away. "Your aura is familiar. It's just like the taste of a concubine that I've eaten last time. Perhaps that person was your mother," the monster stated. Because of what he just said, Sal's senses started to regain. "This is perfect. Let me have a taste of her child," the monster added, and something reddish suddenly crumbled to pieces. Right at this moment, Sal recalled the memories of when he was with his mother. His mother always put him to sleep by patting him. She was a lovely lady who also had white hair the same as Sal. One day, Sal brings a flower for his mother and he is so excited to give it to the lady. But then, he fell to the ground and his mother walked away and never looked back. "Sal, I'm sorry. Mom is leaving," the lady said as her last word for Sal. Sal begged her not to leave, but then she never listened at all. Starting that day, other children bully Sal, teasing him that his mother abandoned him. Kids call him a dog, insignificant bastard, monster, or unwanted trash. But then, Sal could not do anything that time other than cry since he was just a powerless kid. Back in the present time, Sal got furious and screamed, "Mother definitely did not throw me away." Then he flustered when he saw the monster widely open its mouth, ready to eat him alive. Sal's eyes flame. He then stabbed the monster, believing that it was this creature who unalive his mother. Blood splattered from the monster's chest. He screamed in agony, but he was still holding Sal. He knew that Sal used a blood feast attack, so he was confused about how Sal knew his blood magic. He then pushed away Sal and roared so loud. He was furious, believing that Sal was willing to burn his blood just to kill him. He believes he has used too much of his strength releasing the blood spirit, so he needs to consume more women to replenish his strength. He then approached the dead lady behind him and immediately consumed her. Was it delicious? Sal asked. And since the monster didn't respond, Sal jumped toward him and said, I'm asking you if my mother was delicious. Sal was smiling devilishly. The monster looked at him, but he still stabbed him without any hesitation. However, he suddenly saw his mother uttering his name. She looked so sad and seemed like she missed Sal so much. Sal felt sad, but he knew it was just an imagination. He pushed his sword deeper into the monster's head. He then pulled his sword and the monster fell on the ground. The monster is still breathing and wants to eat more concubines so he can still survive. But of course, Sal won't make this monster consume another female. He stabbed the monster a little. He was widely smiling at him, ready to kill him. The monster's blood continued to splatter. He didn't want to die, so he begged Sal not to kill him. He even told Sal that he could possess Sal's sword and become his sword spirit and enhance his power. But for Sal, this monster isn't worthy at all. He then eliminated the monster and the blood exploded. The blood formed into a circle and swordsmanship inheritance will be imprinted within the body after absorption. Sal was so down, thinking that he almost forgot he had been motherless since birth. He believes that all of those memories that come inside his mind are just his pathetic delusions. For him, he was a pitiful monster. All of a sudden, a shadow of his mother appeared, telling him that he wasn't a monster, and she told Sal that she had always been by his side. Sal turned around as he heard someone call her name. It was Andrea. She rushed to Sal with a worried face and she asked him if he was okay. She was panicking when she saw Sal covered in blood. Are you hurt? Let me heal you, she added. But Sal never responded. Andrea then healed him by holding his cheeks and Sal was out of words. In the previous life, Andrea also met the same fate as the concubines eaten by the monster. Recalling it made Sal sad and suddenly hugged Andrea. Andrea was shocked by his behavior, and while hugging her, Sal told himself that he would not let tragedy repeat itself in this life. As the monster mentioned earlier, Sal used a blood feast attack. It was blood magic that cost the user's own blood. The condition of this magic is a divine grade treasure sword. It sacrifices the user's blood to the holy sword and greatly increases the weapon's attributes before the blood is fully burnt. The disappearance of the sword spirit demon caused a commotion within the family, resulting in the sentencing of all guardians of Eden Spring to death. And after witnessing Sal's ruthlessness, the servants never dared to bully Andrea again. Amidst the lies, Sal is accused of being the cause of the sword spirit's disappearance, but without evidence, the matriarch can only intensify the persecution, confinement, withdrawing blood, and poison, but Sal survived all of them unscathed. 4 years later, at Cooper family training ground, a man flew away as he was attacked by Alan. Alan pointed a sword at him. The sword already had blood since Alan injured the guy without any guilt. The guy was begging for mercy, but then Alan believed that the guy wanted to defeat him with a low-level ability. The guy then replied that he wouldn't dare to defeat him knowing that he was powerful. At this time, Isak's family head, Sukyu Isak, stated that he had long heard that the esteemed family's young master, Alan, was born with S-grade swordsmanship talent. And after witnessing how Alan fought, he confirmed that the said rumor was true. He was having a conversation with Cooper's family head, Duke Leon Cooper. He was coughing as he was flattered after hearing an appreciation comment from Hugh. They then turned around the moment they both heard the guards screaming. It turned out that Sal entered the training ground with a sword. He was complaining that the people on this ground were too noisy. The guards then rushed toward him with their swords, but then Sal activated his Shadow Blade skill, causing his sword to flame with an azure color. He swung his sword with Sword Wind follow-up attack, and all the guards who planned to attack him were harmed and flew away. The guards were knocked down instantly and none of them was able to go near Sal. Everyone inside the ground, including Hugh and Leon, had witnessed how Sal easily defeated 3 men in just 1 blow. Hugh was shocked by the number of moves Sal made. And according to him, ordinary people the same age as Sal would still be in the position of Iron Sword Apprentice. But Sal has clearly reached the stage of Silver Sword Guardian, which was clearly incredible. At this time, Alan was furious, thinking that Sal dared to steal his thunder. He was clenching his fist out of anger. He pointed the edge of his sword at Sal, then said, "Hey, do you dare to duel 1 round with me?" Sal then smirked, and he was thinking that if Alan's talent from the previous life was stripped from him, then he concluded that Alan's true ability this time would be weaker. "Sure," he replied. He agreed to the challenge from Alan as he wanted to take this chance to see Alan's skills. "Bring it on," Alan said with a confident glare. But his real intention is to kill Sal, believing that he can have this chance to pretend to act as if he killed Sal accidentally. The guards and other people inside the grounds surrounded them, and of course, none of them cheered Sal. They were cheering for Alan as the young master of the Cooper family. Alan then charged at Sal and swung his sword, but Sal easily blocked it. Alan was confident that he could win the match. But then, Sal is more confident than he thought. Use more force, young master. Is Madam not feeding you enough? Alan was flustered because of what Sal said. Sal then swung his sword and Alan slid backward. Alan was furious. It was impossible for him what Sal did, since his mother told him that with his current strength, no one was his match in their family. He charged at Sal once more, but then Sal deflected his attack, so he turned the other way around. Sal clearly feels that Alan is very weak, that even the magic power imbued onto the sword is thin. For him, it was obvious that it was artificially enhanced. Right now, he realizes that he was just worried for nothing. At this moment, he confirmed that Alan doesn't have swordsmanship talent at all. "Let me show you what a real strike looks like," he uttered while jumping toward Alan. Alan was so scared. He was staring straight at Sal, but he wasn't able to move because of fear. Sal then attacked his eyes using the Shadow Blade Thrust third form. Alan moaned in pain. He fell on the ground while holding his eyes, and the guards immediately ran toward him with worries. Alan was screaming that his eye was in pain, and upon witnessing his failure, Hugh laughed very loud and said, "Looks like I judged wrongly. Young Master Alan's ability is nothing much. Those servants he defeated just now weren't acting, were they?" Leon was annoyed with the words coming out from Hugh, and he told him that he was being disrespectful. Hugh then apologizes and never forgets the fact that his younger sister was engaged to Alan. However, he doesn't want his younger sister to be married to a useless man. "You're worrying too much. If the royal family hadn't granted this marriage, who knows if your sister would even have been able to get married?" Leon replied with annoyance. His words made Hugh angered and commanded him to repeat what he said. Hugh turned around and told Leon that he wouldn't disturb him any further, and he reminded him not to forget their two families' joint operations in 10 days. The moment he left, Leon felt so much angered toward his own son. And he never denies the fact that Alan is really trash for being so weak. "What is that little shadow called?" he asked, and his lady servant then replied, "Reply to master, his name is Sal. He's the child of one of your mistresses." As of which mistress, it wasn't recorded. Leon then realizes that Sal is also his son, and he believes that Sal's sword talent is good because of him. He then commanded his lady servant to bring Sal to his study room, and the lady servant replied yes. Leon went back first to his study room, and Sal came after a few minutes. "Master, what are your orders?" Sal asked. At this time, Leon was staring at Sal, but he couldn't sense any talent power at all. A part of him believes that Sal intentionally hiding his true ability to steal the position of heir in the future. For him, it was too crafty, but he knew in the end, Sal is still easy to read since he's just a little brat. Leon then grabbed the sword from his table while telling Sal that he would lead the Shadow Squad 10 in 10 days and head towards the Lost Crystal City together with the Isak family to retrieve the dragon egg. He handed the sword to Sal while informing him that this sword could activate the teleportation to Crystal City. He doesn't know that Sal is aware that it will anger the demonic dragon within no matter what it does to retrieve the dragon egg. He thinks that Leon must not have good intentions to send him there, but of course, he doesn't want to miss the chance to earn a dragon egg. He accepted the sword and said, "As you wish, master." However, he had one request. Leon was shocked and asked him what it was. After 10 days, Sal, together with other kids, heads to the Crystal City to do his mission given by Leon. Andrea was together with him. The girl was riding to the griffin. She was a little bit worried. She asked Sal if he informed the family head that she came along to serve Sal. She wanted to know if Sal asked permission, knowing that it was not appropriate for her to sit all the way. Sal then told her not to worry since it was fine. "They don't mind, right?" he asked, and the kids behind him were terrified and answered yes. Meanwhile, they arrive in the Crystal City but never see a crystal and the dragon egg. Someone then came and said, "To think that the Cooper family's elite team doesn't even have the basic knowledge about Crystal City. What a joke." She's Gloria Isak, the head sister of the Isak family and Alan's fiancé. Behind her were several armored knights. She then looked straight at Sal and said that it was nice meeting her. She introduced her name while extending her hand, but then Sal never reached her hand and just turned around while telling Andrea to stay with the griffin since he would be soon out. Gloria was so annoyed by the fact that Sal dared to ignore her. Sal went directly to the altar while Gloria was calling him, informing him that she was talking to him. "Miss Gloria, if we don't activate the portal together before the sun sets, this trip will be waste," Sal said. He was annoyed that she met Gloria in this life again, a troublesome woman. He then grabbed his sword while telling himself that he would just pray that the bird Mio could successfully finish the mission given to it. He pointed his sword at the floor together with Gloria. The altar glowed suddenly and someone said that this altar was a teleportation formation. The crystal city finally appeared. It was so beautiful and some of the people around wondered if the legendary demonic dragon egg was really in a place like this. At this time, Gloria and Sal walked toward the crystal city, but then the leader of the knights stood at the center of the altar. He was planning to kill all the Cooper family's soldiers and bring the dragon egg back for the Isak family. Sal feels something bad about to happen. The knight raises his sword, ready to attack the Cooper's soldiers, believing that if he eliminates everyone, the Isak family head will definitely reward him. Sal activates his magic power and tells all the people to quickly fall back. Someone then attacked the altar and both Gloria and Sal were almost harmed. It turned out that the light sentinels that protect Crystal City had appeared. The leader of Isak's knights was so scared, calling his mother to save him. Gloria then bravely charged at the light sentinel and attacked one using her thorn/slash ability. Her knight was worried for her, but then she was mad at him for acting on his own without asking permission. The knight then said that he just did it for the sake of the Isak family. However, Gloria believes that he's just doing it for his own benefit. Two sentinels then charged at Gloria and Gloria panicked the moment she heard the knight informing her that there were two sentinels charging from her back. To her surprise, the sentinels were slashed in an instant, and it was because of Sal. All shadow, heed my command. Get into formation. Sal screamed. All the kids' soldiers under his command then quickly moved in a circle formation and pointed their swords on the floor. A dark magic power then appeared and seemed like Sal was controlling it. The sentinels gathered and were howling. Sal was looking forward to seeing if the power of light was stronger or if their power of shadow would win. As he attacked the sentinels, everyone from the Isak family was shocked, witnessing how the sentinels were easily eliminated by him. They were surprised to see one of the Cooper family members incorporate magic into swordsmanship, and one of them said that Sal is already powerful despite the fact that he is just a kid. At the same time, Gloria was speechless. She was blushing as she was impressed how Sal was pretty good at fighting. The moment the sentinels disappeared, a red crystal appeared, absorbing the power. Sal was satisfied with it as he also immediately rose from Silver Sword Guardian to Gold Sword Guardian. In front of them is a hole where he can enter the crystal. He then put the crystal in its right position and the ground suddenly shook. They then felt that the altar was descending and they all immediately climbed onto the altar, knowing that the secret passage to the dragon's den was now open. The altar continuously descended, and as they went lower, they heard an unfamiliar noise. They reached the lowest part after a minute, and the altar where they were standing was landed above the dragon eggs. The Cooper and Isak families then went to the egg in a hurry to quickly gather it. Sal and Gloria were just looking at them, and Sal was thinking that the kids and others were in a rush to deed the demonic dragon, which is an idiotic reason. All of a sudden, the red dragon appeared, which means it has awakened. Everyone then ran away, but Gloria and Sal grabbed their swords. Gloria told everyone to calm down and get ready to fight. Sal then told Gloria that he would cover the rear, and he commanded everyone to take the dragon eggs and leave. But while the others were trying to steal the eggs, the ground shook again. It turned out that Gray, one of the servants of the Cooper family, had gone to the altar and pressed the crystal to go back above with only one dragon egg. It is because Leon commanded him to use the shadows to hold the dragon back and destroy the teleportation altar after he has secured the dragon eggs. Leon doesn't want to let the Isak family have a chance, and he believes that Sal is on his own. I'm sorry everyone, but the Empire can only have one family who possesses the dragon egg, and that is the Cooper family. Sacrifice yourselves for the family, I'm out of here, Gray said. The altar rises and the people he left behind were so mad at him and cursed him. At this time, Gloria and Sal need to focus on defeating the dragon first. While they both rush to the dragon, Gloria tells Sal that the Cooper family head is truly ruthless for abandoning not just them but also Sal as well. Sal then replied that it was within his expectations. Within your expectations, so you rushed in here to throw away your life? Gloria asked, and Sal told her that she was thinking too much. The dragon blows an attack, but Sal still continues to charge at the dragon and cuts its one wing while saying that he won't be drying here. The dragon was roaring in pain. He attacked Sal with his claw, causing Sal to fly away. Gloria rushes to him and the dragon immediately blows a flame upon seeing her planning to help Sal. Gloria then activated her moonshine sword shield and said, "So why did you go and say those big words? Are you all right?" Sal then rose and said that he was fine. He asked the lady to help him delay the dragon's actions first so he could take the chance to attack its heart. "Please, Miss Gloria, you're the only one who can do this," he added. Gloria was blushing again, and she agreed to what Sal wanted her to do. She then rushed to the dragon to destroy it, and she was determined to not let Sal look down on her, knowing that she's also a gifted swordswoman. Sal was looking at her with a slight smile. After a few seconds, Gloria then informed Sal that the perfect time to attack had come. But she was confused when she saw Sal doing nothing. She asked him why he remained standing, but she never received any response from Sal. The dragon continued to attack her. She concludes that Sal fell too hard just now and has no energy left to attack the dragon. She was afraid that they would all die if this continued. She applied her sword dance of destruction, and the dragon received several attacks on its body. Because of it, the dragon fell to the ground, so everyone thought that it died. The kids then kicked it, and they were happy that the dragon was finally eliminated. Gloria was so touched, believing that she had eliminated the dragon by herself. However, the dragon got up and roared loudly. It turned out that it entered its berserk phase. Gloria was puzzled, questioning how it was possible. Behind her was Sal telling her to hide. He then activates the power of his sword using his swordsmanship inheritance third skill. The blood of the dragon gathered the moment he activated his blood shadow slash. He raised his sword and he was flaming. The dragon's blood disappeared as it transformed into two clones of Sal. "Condense," he uttered. Everyone was surprised that he was able to transform the dragon's blood into his clones. Not only that, but they noticed that Sal suddenly changed into a new holy grade treasure sword. Gloria and her knight knew that it was blood magic. As per Gloria, it is a forbidden magic, and the Empire only allows the Cooper family head to use it against enemies on the battlefield. She has heard that the sword spirit in Cooper's family has disappeared. She was annoyed when she realized that Sal intentionally stood back and waited for her to draw the dragon's blood. "Sal Cooper, you bastard. You actually used me," she screamed out of anger. "Heh, so what if I did?" Sal replied while charging at the dragon together with his two clones. He jumped toward the dragons the same as his clones, and he recalled that he was an abandoned pawn in his previous life, so in this life, he promised he wouldn't sit idly and await his demise. The blood shadow slash ability that he used is a gold swordmaster level that utilizes the blood of the enemy to create temporary blood clones, enabling a group assault. Without any hesitation, Sal beheaded the dragon in front of everyone. The dragon's head dropped to the ground, and Gloria, together with two other kids, ran towards Sal in happiness since Sal defeated the dragon. But Gloria was flustered when Sal pointed his sword at her and told her not to come near. Sal was coughing, his veins were showing. He was holding his face, and there was a purple aura emerging from the sword he was holding. He remained standing, and he saw his reflection below him with the monster on the spring holding him. "Sal, do you think that you can rest easy after killing me? You will become like me, needing to eat more flesh and blood to maintain your strength," the monster stated. The monster pointed his finger at Gloria and the others while telling Sal to enjoy himself killing them. This monster was pulling Sal's hair. Sal was stuttering and he suddenly screamed that he wanted more blood. He charged at everyone, and everyone was so afraid of him, believing that Sal overused blood magic and had been demonized. When Sal was about to kill everyone, he saw Andrea, begging him to stop what he was planning to do. She also uses her power to help Sal get back to his senses. Sal kneeled on the ground as he lost consciousness. He feels like he dropped with some blood while Andrea wanted to reach him. Meanwhile, Andrea looked so worried at Sal. She woke up Sal and Sal finally regained consciousness. She was glad that Sal was now awake, and she informed him that she used purification on him so he wouldn't be demonized for now. She also said that the others were now fine. She stood while singing a lullaby. Sal was clueless as to why she was so excited. The lady then carried the dragon egg while saying that it was completely fine and was the only remaining dragon egg. It was because of Andrea that they captured Gray. As per Andrea, she didn't tell the Isak family about the dragon egg. And Gloria has already left with her team, so Sal doesn't have to worry about not completing the mission. She was hoping that Sal wouldn't be worried now. Sal then gave thanks to her, but she said it wasn't because of the egg that he was worried. Originally, the Griffin was supposed to take Andrea to a prearranged location and then lie about her accidental death so that she could leave the family. He was mad at the Griffin for not completing a simple order. He was about to slash the Griffin, but Andrea stopped him and told him that they must talk about it first. The Griffin was sad and afraid. He explained that it wasn't his fault at all. It is just that Andrea was worried about Sal and insisted on entering the secret realm. Sal is still mad seeing the Griffin's wings get harder and learns to talk back to him. The two kids with Sal suddenly called his name and charged. Sal thought that these kids were showing their true colors and were planning to snatch the dragon egg away from him. But he flustered the moment he witnessed both kids kill Gray without any hesitation. The kids then kneeled, and everyone followed. They called Sal a young master and begged him to forgive their rudeness. They were grateful to Sal, believing that it was because of him that they all survived. They promised that they would no longer listen to the family and swear to unwaveringly follow Sal till their deaths. Sal was speechless seeing the kids' sudden behavior. Andrea then calls Sal with excitement as she notices that the dragon's egg has started to crack. A dragon then comes out with happiness, and it turns out that the hatched dragon is a demonic one. Demonic dragons will only obey the strongest. Are you going to accept me as your master? Sal uttered while letting the dragon possess his power. The dragon said yes, and Sal then touched its face. Everyone then cheered that Sal easily tamed the demonic dragon. They congratulated Sal and said that Sal Cooper's rebel force against the family was born from this day on. After a day back in Cooper's mansion, Alan and Hira were inside Leon's study room. Alan was begging his mother to let him go to the horse racing tracks, but Hira told him to wait until his father was done with his work. Go, go, go. All you do is enjoy yourself all day long. You're worse than a bastard child. Did you know that Sal Cooper kid not only slew the demonic dragon but also tamed its offspring? Leon angrily said while slamming the table with a piece of paper in his hand. It's not the child's fault. Why are you mad at him? If our Alan had gone, he would have definitely tamed the demonic dragon. Hira replied, and of course, Alan agreed with her. Hira then grabbed Alan with her to accompany him to the racetrack today instead of his father. They exited the study room of Alan, and Alan then rushed, ordering his servant to give him his horsewhip. Hira was covering her mouth with her fan and asked Josh about how the research on deprivation magic was going. Don't worry, madam, we've successfully completed the research. We are only waiting to find a test subject with S-rank talent. Once we've ensured that it's possible, we will immediately use it on Sal Cooper. Josh replied, not bad. This time, I will definitely get rid of that brat, Hira said with a giggle, and the brat she was referring to was Sal. 5 years later, Sal grew up and Andrea still purifies him so he won't be demonized. But this time, he was fully purified, which means he won't be demonized in the future, and he can use the sword technique as much as he wants. Sal was so happy and grateful to Andrea since Andrea never left his side. He gave thanks to the lady, and Andrea then said that it should be her who thanked him for giving her such a wonderful staff. While they were talking, they heard a noise outside of the window. Sal then opened the window and angrily asked who it was. However, he doesn't see anyone, but he feels that the figure clearly belongs to the housekeeper. At this moment, Reynold and Lucien came reporting that the task Sal assigned had a result. As per Lucien, they secretly trailed the housekeeper and discovered that he had been recruiting a group of black magic mages and seemed to be preparing to conduct a ritual in 3 days. Reynold then added that the housekeeper even mentioned finally finding another target with S-rank talent, and their magic abilities are very high. Sal then wondered if the deprivation magic ritual was about to begin, and he was confused as to why the group didn't target him directly and instead searched for another target with S-rank talent. He knows that the target with extremely high magic abilities is Andrea. He was looking at Andrea, which made her flinched. 3 days later, Andrea was inside the storage room and was cleaning the mess inside. Josh suddenly came behind her with a handkerchief in his hand and covered it to Andrea's mouth. Andrea wanted to scream, but she got weaker until she fainted. Andrea was brought to the ritual and used her. She was in the middle of a magic circle, and the mages uttered, "Transfer the power to my control." The power flows, following me like a shadow. Josh was holding a sharp weapon. He was planning to use it to stab Andrea to use the blood of her heart mixed into the formation, and his main goal was to get Andrea's power. He tried to stab Andrea, but the lady suddenly disappeared. Andrea suddenly teleported behind him and said, "That's illusion magic." Josh was shocked and nervous. Andrea was mad, telling Josh not to underestimate her. She then activates her shining star lock and easily captures Josh with it. Josh was annoyed by the fact that Andrea was quite tricky. "Why are you all just standing there? Take her down," he said, and the mages then prepared to attack. Andrea then suddenly closed her eyes since it was Sal's order. She also covered her ears so she couldn't hear anything. Josh then looked up above as he heard a weird noise. It turned out that Sal's griffin and dragon were coming to them and attacked them one by one. They were all screaming for help, but of course, no one could help them. Josh was so scared, thinking that Sal had come and found out about his bad plans. As he checked behind him, Sal came and said, "You even dared to touch Andrea. You must be tired of living." Josh uttered Sal's name, and Sal left a small scratch on the face of Josh and asked him why he was targeting Andrea. Josh then replied that it is because deprivation magic can only be used once on a target, and to ensure that Alan will receive Sal's talent, we have to find a human test subject, so please spare my life, I'm just following orders. He added. Sal was flustered after he discovered that Andrea was in danger because of him. Sal then told Josh that he could let him go. However, there were consequences. He cut his hand a little and dropped his blood on the magic circle where Josh was kneeling. Josh was panicking knowing that Sal was doing a shadow oath. Sal grabbed Josh's hair and commanded him to go back and tell the matriarch that the deprivation magic ceremony was successful and could be conducted on him immediately. Otherwise, Josh should know what will happen to him. Josh then asked him why and Sal replied, "Why? Naturally, it's to expose Alan's true colors." The next day morning, Josh went to Hira and told her that the deprivation experiment had succeeded. Of course, it was a lie and it was originally Sal's order. Behind them was Alan, inviting Gloria to tour the garden with him, but then Gloria didn't want to come with him. Hira was smiling upon hearing the report of her servant. She then asked him if he was certain and Josh replied absolutely and stated that the upcoming full moon coincides with Alan's coming-of-age ceremony. A perfect time to act. "Good, you've done well," Hira said. She thought that her long-cherished wish was finally coming true, and her main intention was to make Alan the future head of the family and the future strongest man in the empire. "Miss Gloria, are you playing hard to get?" "What a shame, I've seen through it," Alan replied to Gloria. He wanted to get close to Gloria since it was his mother's order, and he knew every lady wanted to be with her, so he believed he could easily get Gloria. However, Gloria pointed a sword at his neck and said, "Play hard to get. Is a useless young master like you worthy of becoming my fiancé?" Alan was speechless, believing that Gloria was mentally ill. Gloria then swung her sword and told him that he should have to defeat her first before making her his fiancé. Alan then screamed, calling anyone nearby to drag Gloria away. Someone then blocked Gloria's sword. It was Sal. Sal looked slightly at Alan. He smirked and made fun of Alan for calling someone to drag a lady away from him. "No one asked you to save me, I just happened to forget to bring a sword with me," Alan replied with annoyance. He was dumbfounded when Gloria calmed down and grabbed Sal with her, asking her to train with her. But then Sal refused and reasoned out that he was busy. Alan was staring at them, wondering why Gloria was so intimate with Sal. He then concludes that Gloria might like Sal. "Not everyone is qualified to train with me, you better think again," Gloria said to Sal with a blushed face. Alan then clenched his fist and grits his teeth out of anger towards Sal. He then turned his head around as he heard his mother calling him to come back inside. He then decided to forget about it, believing that Gloria and him would be carried in the future. "Since Miss Gloria is not willing to accept my request today, I shall take a leave," Alan said, and Gloria never stopped him. After he left, Gloria then pointed her sword at Sal and said, "Now that the annoying person is gone, if you don't agree to train with me, I will attack you immediately." Sal then agreed to train with the lady, but he wanted her to promise him one thing. Gloria then commanded him to say what it was, and Sal then asked her to introduce him to her brother Duke Isaac. The night came, Sal and Hugh Isaac finally met. "I have a way to cancel Miss Gloria and Alan's engagement, but I hope that you can lend me the Isaac family's heirloom, the illusionary time box," Sal stated. But then, it only made Hugh speechless. In the previous life of Sal, Duke Isaac was not satisfied with the playboy Alan and was also unwilling to ally himself with the Cooper family. He repeatedly proposed to cancel the engagement but was constantly rejected by the royal family. So in this life, Sal wanted to take advantage of it. However, Hugh slashed a little on Sal's face and called him an arrogant kid. "Is an engagement blessed by the royal family something that can be cancelled by the likes of you? You dare to talk about conditions with me?" Hugh stated, "Likes of me? Only someone like me can solve your problems," Sal replied while summoning his sword. This sword made Hugh shocked and concludes that Sal Cooper is the real S-rank talent. Sal then charged toward him and attacked him, but he blocked it. Sal then said, "Since the engagement can't be cancelled, we just have to destroy that trash, young master, isn't it the same? What do you think, Duke?" And at first, Hugh Isaac was out of words. 1 month later, the Cooper family's bastard children were gathered in the hall. "Madam, everything is ready, but Sal Cooper is not among the bastards," and the young master went to search for him. Josh said. Hira then replied that she knew, so she ordered Josh to go and help Alan. The children don't have any idea why they were called, and they have the guts that it is to emphasize Alan's status as the heir so that they can be his dogs without worry. At this time, Leon Cooper was outside the hall, and one of his servants informed him that the guests were all seated. They also informed Leon that he followed his instructions to begin. Leon was about to enter, but then Hugh showed up and said, "What a coincidence, Duke Cooper. Care to talk?" "Duke Isaac, I don't remember inviting you," Leon replied. Hugh then said that he would definitely come to enjoy the excitement since it was his future brother-in-law's coming-of-age ceremony. Sal and Lucian were hiding on the side. Sal then said that everyone had come, so he told Lucian that it was now the time to activate the illusionary time box. Lucian then fled and went straight to the illusionary box to activate it. The kids then uttered, "Gates of the Abyss, shadow-woven fantasy, illusionary time box, virtual realm open." They all pointed their swords to it and it then instantly activated. Sal was inside the hall. He was looking above. Alan suddenly came with a glass of wine. "I finally found you. Why are you hiding alone here?" Alan said. "That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you wish to have another part of this recap, please give us at least 2,000 likes. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Until next time.